Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to Abnormal Voyages. My name is David, and today we find ourselves in Alamogordo, New Mexico, at the New Mexico Museum of Space History, which includes the International Space Hall of Fame. Let's blast off for an awesome voyage.
We're going to a place that you've never heard of before. It's Abnormal Voyages. You're gonna learn something new. We're gonna open new doors. It's Abnormal Voyages.
And now we're about to load up to begin our exploration of the Science Center. Tag along. We have a huge timeline here that kind of explains humans' fascination and the technological advances we've made in terms of getting to space and exploring it. And then on the bottom, beautiful patches that all have to do with the space program throughout the years. I think you could spend an hour or two alone just looking at all the details here. Really cool to see in one place.
For as long as man has been around, he's looked up and wondered about the stars. This timeline did a great job of showing from earliest man onward to our quest to explore space. And then these wonderful patches, each one representing a different mission or a different program that was all about going into space and accomplishing different things. If you looked closely, you could actually see the name of the project and the years that it was active. Everyone who was involved in it got a patch. This was just a nice view of Alamogordo. You started at the top of the museum and worked your way down, which I thought was kind of cool. There were displays here with items owned by actual astronauts, things that they had taken with them into space, and even this kit here that was used to collect different samples from the moon and test them when they got brought back. This was a scale model replica of Sputnik, the first satellite to ever be launched out into space. And these lovely portraits were all around the museum and were the actual members that were in the Space Hall of Fame. You got their picture, name, and a little biography of what they did, such as Neil Armstrong, who, as we all know, was one of the first men to ever step on the moon. Making it to the moon was one of our biggest accomplishments in space thus far, so they made sure that it got the celebration and acclaim that it deserved. I really liked seeing these scale model replicas here that showed you just how big these crafts were that carried these brave astronauts all the way out there to a new surface. Of course, those weren't the only replicas.
This is an example of an actual space station that could be orbiting us right now, getting work done 200 miles away from the planet Earth.
It's hard to believe that astronauts live for so long in such confined spaces like this, but I guess that's the sacrifice they make in the pursuit of knowledge. Another great replica was this here that replicated a cockpit, so you could actually see the control panels and what it looked like to be right at the heart of what it took to maneuver through space.
Before America sent humans to space, they sent chimpanzees. This is the actual outfit of Ham, the first chimpanzee to ever be sent into space. And then next to that, this is the actual capsule that housed Ham on his daring voyage to the stars.
These furry astronauts were called astro-chimps, and these were the little consoles they used to help train them. Personally, I think these chimpanzees that got sent up there are just as deserving to be in the Hall of Fame as these other astronauts. One of the key parts of space exploration, and what actually makes it possible, is the technology of rockets. Now, rockets have been around far longer than we've even thought about actually going into space. They used it back in the ancient days for warfare and then fireworks, things like that. It wasn't until a more modern day that they began thinking, hey, we could use this as propulsion. This section did a fantastic job of showing the history of rockets and explaining a little bit about how they work and how exactly they managed to take our astronauts safely from Earth into that mysterious space above us. You don't often get to see up close and personal the more technical parts of rockets and how the equipment actually works. So this is a really cool peek behind the curtain, as they say, and see not only more modern rockets, but also some of the iterations that came before it. There's also plenty of artifacts back in the days when rockets first started shooting off, the first men to go into space, the first few Apollo missions. Anything that was really noteworthy, they've got it here. They also had a lot of supplies that astronauts themselves packed up to take with them when they went on their voyages into space. And though the limelight usually falls on the astronauts themselves, which of course makes sense, there's actually huge teams behind every space program. Any launch that happens is thanks to hundreds and hundreds of other workers behind the scenes. Some of their stuff happens to be here too.
One of the hidden gems here is one of the calculators that was used by NASA's human computers, which of course were made famous by the movie and book Hidden Figures.
And, kind of gross looking, this lovely collection of historical space food. They actually ate some of this stuff.
This wall here has some replica spacesuits. These are very similar to the ones that astronauts would actually wear. As you can see, they kind of changed as you go through time, different places. This one, for example, is one of the early Russian ones. Really different from what we see as a modern day suit. But it's really cool getting to see kind of where they came from and what led to what we see now. Space has always been very prevalent in pop culture. They even have some examples of it here. This is a Stranger Things hazmat suit, which not quite space, but still very much the distinct space look. And then this one, very much space. Firefly and Serenity, one of the greatest series ever made, preserved here for everyone to see. And of course, one of the more popular instances of space travel in pop culture, Star Trek.
Personally, I've always been a slightly bigger fan of Star Wars, but I think anybody who enjoys sci-fi has to respect Star Trek. It began in the 1960s by Gene Roddenberry and is probably one of the quintessential viewings when it comes to space exploration in TV format. Even people who have never seen an episode in their lives know about Klingons and Captain Kirk and Spock, and some even know about things like this Tribble here, which kind of looks like a toupee, but it was a furry little alien creature.
It was great getting to see a little pop culture here, but we're going to tell the Star Trek section live long and prosper and beam up to see what else we have at the museum. Here's a list of all the inductees to the International Space Hall of Fame. A really interesting story though, if you follow me right over here, you'll notice these lovely reliefs here. And these were actually made of the very first two inductees. This is the first man to ever enter outer space, and the man who helped design and perfect the rocket motor. For some reason, the idea to have everybody in the Hall of Fame made like this was abandoned, so only these first two were created, but man, that would have been something special to see. This is a replica created by NASA of one of the first Mercury capsules, which is what the first 6 American astronauts actually went to space in. As you can see, it's actually really cramped in here, pretty small. You have all of your components on your control panel, and this was it. You had a rocket attached to this and they shot you into space. Those are some brave guys. Well, that's all the time we have for space exploration today. My name is David. This has been Abnormal Voyages. Thanks for tagging along. We'll see you in the next one.